Welcome to Age Better Resources, where we explore options and strategies to better navigate some of the changes and challenges that can come with aging in later life. I'm Kathy Clinton, your host, and today I'm excited to be talking to Kathy Miller, the founder and owner of Gentle Shepherd Home Care here in Colorado Springs. Welcome, Kathy. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah, so glad you could join us. So to start, we both know people are not always clear on what different services different agencies offer and all these different terms that we know. So could you just give us a quick overview of what kind of services as a home care agency you do provide and what you maybe can't provide?
Sure. Thanks for asking. It's a great question. Just a little background when I first was experiencing this as a family member with my grandmother, who was 98 at the time and needed care, the medical community and the hospital and everyone kept throwing out acronyms. And I didn't know the difference between home health or home care.
Mhm.
And so that's a great question. And a lot of families come to us at a time either a crisis or where they really realize their loved one needs care. And so the major distinction is we are non-medical, which means that if you get home health for your loved one, that's usually physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, those types of things, which is considered medical. We are non medical, which means that we can really help your loved one stay in their home and safely stay in their home, wherever home may be, whether they live in a community and they have an apartment there, or they live in their own home where they've lived for 50 years. So, what we can do is come in and provide meals. We can take them to the doctor. We can do their grocery shopping or take them with us to do grocery shopping. Take them to that all important Friday appointment to get their hair done, and be able to clean their house, light housekeeping, do their laundry, change the sheets, which I'm 62 and that's getting difficult for me as well, on their bed. Um, and make sure that they're taking their medication correctly because that's a big problem that we see and a lot of families see. Happens a lot. They get older and they mess up their medication, and then they think they've taken something and then they haven't, or they think they haven't taken it and they take too much of it. And so that's something that we're there to help monitor and make sure that they're doing that. Fall prevention, because we know that a lot of times they get dehydrated, they don't drink enough water, and then they get dizzy. It affects their balance, they fall. So we're there to encourage and lovingly encourage them to take enough fluids. We can change them if they're, incontinent, and help them with bathroom and showering, and grooming. So we're kind of there to make sure that they are safely able to stay in their own home as long as they want.
Yeah. And I think that last part's such an important distinction between what you all can offer and what maybe a straight companion service can offer, because that is no hands-on, right?
Right. And I say we're non-medical and we are, but our goal is to hire we have a lot of nursing students or retired nurses. We try to hire CNAs, certified nursing assistants, or MAs, which are medical assistants, not because they can perform those duties, but because they're going to recognize a stroke or a heart attack or something going on with your loved one long before someone who, previous to this, they worked at Target and they decided they want to be a caregiver. So we've always taken it just a little bit step above to make sure that not only are they taken care of from a non-medical standpoint, but if something's going on, our caregivers have the knowledge and the experience to recognize that early on and get them the help they need.
Yeah, that can make a huge difference.
Really can.
Yeah. And I think the other point that people get confused on that we both know is that what Medicare pays for, what they don't, and how people pay for this type of service. If you could touch on that.
Sure, that is a great question. Medicare pays for traditional A and B, so hospital and doctors and physical therapy, which is the medical side of the equation. Not typically home care. They are starting to include it in some Medicare Advantage plans, but they
Mhm.
really haven't gotten that off the ground yet. So it's yet to be seen how that plays out. What we do is we'll take private pay, which means that you'll pay out of pocket for your loved one or they'll pay out for themselves. Long-term care insurance and some secondary policies to Medicare will include home care. It's rare, but some of them do. And we're happy to review their secondary policies and see if that's in there and abide by that for them.
Yeah, and I know sometimes people may have benefits through the VA,
Yes.
even attendance. That
Good question.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Aid and attendance is great. If you've served in the military, we can certainly put you in touch with people that can help see if you qualify for aid and attendance. And the VA will help veterans pay for home care. It all depends on their situation and economics or their uh, income situation and asset situation. But a lot of times, and especially in this town, there's a lot of benefits that folks don't know about. The other big one is the voucher program that we accept that is paid for by the federal government. The only stipulation really is that you're over 60. There is no income requirements to be met. And the federal government is typically giving people about 14 hours of free care every 6 to 8 weeks right now. And we can certainly put you in touch with those folks that manage that program and get your loved one started on that.
Yeah, yeah, and just that can be a big help if maybe a spouse is taking care of their husband or wife and just need a
Mhm,
little bit of time to get their
mhm.
life taken care of. That can make a
Exactly.
huge difference. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
It
it.
becomes very difficult to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
I've done it for my own family, and we see it every day, and it's exhausting. So, any kind of help that you can get or be able to bring into the home or to help with your loved one makes a tremendous difference.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd love for you to just explain what your background was, because I know that the kind of the intersection of your corporate experience and your personal experience is really what inspired you. So could you
Mhm.
tell us about that?
Sure, sure. My grandmother, my Mima, she lived to 98 and she was in great health for most of her life. She fell and broke her hip at 90, but got over that. But she basically just got old and she had old age issues, no dementia. But about 20 years ago, or I had been a vice president in corporate America, worked for many mid-sized firms as well as Fortune 500 companies, and really was one of those busy professionals that had a loved one that needed care. And so I realized, man, there is a huge need there for this. And my grandmother needs help, and I need somebody that I can trust that's going to go in and help her be able to stay in her home. She didn't want to go to any kind of facility or community. So I started thinking about it, and one of my friends said, man, you should open a home care agency. And my dad suggested the same thing as he got older. And so I realized that I wanted to get out of corporate America at some point. Loved it, was successful, but I really wanted to move from what the world considered success to something significant. And I felt like this was a great segue for us. My husband and I both have elderly parents. My dad is 92, almost 93. My mother-in-law is 90, almost 91. And then we mentioned my me mom, and my mom lived to 88, which we lost her a couple of years ago. So all that being said, we not only run a company that helps families like yours, we are a family like yours. And so we take it very personally. We were able to take our background in corporate America and be able to run a successful business and hire the best talent in order to take care of your loved one. But from a more important standpoint, in my mind, is we live this every day with our own families. So we are you, and we know how it feels, and we know the struggles and the challenges personally and professionally. And I think it's really given us an edge to be able to care for your loved one like we would our own.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen personally what a difference that's made. Yeah, and the quality of
Mhm.
service you provide.
Mhm.
Um, So one of the things I know some people do is they look at hiring, they think they'll save a little bit of money, which is always a consideration, and they may
Sure.
get hiring somebody. And I think just privately, and I think if it's a situation where, every week they might need some groceries or something that's not essential, that could work or be a good starting
Mhm.
point. But in terms of people doing that when they reach a point where they really need more, or it's an acute situation, and for 6 weeks, they have to have somebody there. Can you speak to some of the benefits you feel are there with using an agency?
Sure. Well, I think one of the main ones is, and my concern when I first had to get care for my own grandmother Was you want to make sure that your loved one's with someone who A is trained and knows what they're doing, has the experience and proven experience. More importantly, you want to make sure that they've been vetted. You want to make sure that they've had a criminal background check. And I don't mean just in El Paso County or just in Colorado. A lot of firms just do this because it's much cheaper. What we wanted was somebody or a firm, and what we do is a firm that does a national criminal check for both felonies and misdemeanors, all counties, all names, all across the United States. Because as you know, this state's very transient, right? People move in and out a lot. And so someone could have committed a crime or a serious crime in Louisiana, but they've moved here. And if I only ran Colorado, I wouldn't know about that. I don't want anybody with my loved one or your loved one that's got any kind of criminal record. We do not hire for it, even misdemeanors. We just are very, very cautious. We also make sure that they don't have a drug problem. One of the things that's really important, especially working with seniors, is they take a lot of pain meds. They may take tramadol, they may take, they've got arthritis or whatever they may have. If you're a drug addict, who are you going to want to work around, right? So A, we knock them out in case they have any criminal background, but B, and more importantly, we do the MAX panel, which is 11 panel drug screen, both pre-hire and then randomly after they're hired, to ensure that whoever's with your loved one has no serious issues with drugs. And not only enough to get hired, but beyond that, they never know when we're going to call and randomly say, okay, you got 24 hours to go do a drug screen. It's really helped us to never have an issue with that. We have had no issues with either. We're very cautious who we hire. We also make sure that they have the experience. We really check references. We make sure that not only are they didn't just come from Jack in the Box. They've worked for, other families in the area or other agencies. Check their backgrounds, but we also give them continued education. We want folks that want to advance their careers. So we offer a specialized training program once they're with us that not only, maybe they have their CNA, but do they want to specialize in cancer or stroke recovery or heart or dementia or Parkinson's, any of the comorbidities that a lot of our seniors have, and many of them have one or two at least. So not only are they able to care for your loved one, but it's so important that they have that extra training and that extra certification to be able to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing that I've observed that you all can provide is that initial assessment and care plan, and their needs a family might not realize exist that you guys can identify. So that's one piece. And then two other things I've witnessed in your office, the support that your team in the office provides to people. I've overheard conversations where they're really providing moral support to the family, the caregivers, whomever. And that's something I think that extra layer of help and guidance is huge, because people can feel so alone.
And then overwhelmed,
sometimes they just need to vent to somebody, right? Or just have someone listen. So,
and I think something else that's really, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
no, go
interrupt you,
ahead.
but I think something else that's really important is that we can move quickly. So if your loved one needs help, you don't have 2 weeks or 3 weeks to wait. We can move within 2 to 3 hours to be able to get someone fit for you. We also put care teams together for your loved one. Maybe they don't need that much care, but we have 2 or 3 people that will be dedicated to your account, and mom or dad know, so that if your caregiver becomes ill or they have an emergency or they need a vacation, then they already have somebody on the care team they know and that your loved one knows, that come in and take care of them. That's one advantage over hiring somebody privately. Not only the background checks and making sure the references are checked and that they get, specialized training, but what happens when they call in sick? What happens when they just walk out or don't show up? We will back up everything that we have with these care teams. And by hiring an individual, you don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, a huge piece, I think, because then you're on your own.
Yeah, and why it may be cheaper, I think you kind of get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and then
And
you should be paying some there's tax things and different things like that you have to take into consideration. And
yeah, and that can get tricky, and you're right. And the other thing is we give great benefits. We have excellent insurance. We have 401k where the company matches. We give them time off, paid vacation. We buy their kids' school supplies. And so, what does that do for you? What that does for you is it means that that caregiver is going to be retained. That caregiver is going to stay wanting to work for us. In fact, we just won again National Employer Choice 2 years in a row because our caregivers consider us a great place to work. What does that mean for you? It means that you keep the same care team or the same caregivers for your loved one for as long as you need them because our retention is very good.
Yeah, and there is that continuity of your care coordinator
Exactly.
who's helping, and also that kind of matching,
Mhm,
this
mhm,
would be great for this client. So I
mhm,
love that.
mhm.
Well, and I think as you described all of this, you really covered a lot of what people should be looking for if they're looking for a home care agency. Those are
Mhm.
things, a strong office team,
Yes.
continuity, great
Messages.
type
Now
of.
show.
Apologies for the interruption. Kathy had to step away to handle a pressing matter. I will have notes below and as to how you can reach out to Kathy's agency directly, either through their website or calling directly. And you can mention that you heard Kathy speak and have some understanding of what you might need. If you're not sure of what you need, reach out to me directly and I'd be happy to help you. And either one of us can walk you through the process, the next steps. They can give you details, of course, on pricing and the process for an assessment. As always, if you found this to be helpful, please like it, and I look forward to helping in the future.